everybody, this is Tyson here with HHO for Life. Just going to share a couple of videos with you. And what I'm doing now is I'm actually going through Stanley Meyers patents, kind of giving you guys an overview as to what they are, how they work, how his systems work and stuff like that. Just for any of you out there that don't quite understand it all the way or have all the information that you need. Hopefully this helps you out, and hopefully I can bring up a few points that he has that are important that a lot of people miss out on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get his patent here. And my camera does not focus very well, guys, and I apologize. I apologize for that. But basically what this is his patent, one of his first ones, and this is if you notice his car, he actually runs that through like a laser system and to ionize the gas, and he has a tubular array for the hydrogen generator and the fuel injectors, the spark plug injectors, that kind of stuff. This right here is actually one of his first patents, and it says United States patent, and it is titled Hydrogen Gas Injector for Internal Combustion Engine, and it is patent number 4389981. January 28th, 1983. So as you can see, it's one of his first patents that he had. Instead of being an injector system like you would normally see, the first design that he had was actually a carburetor. And what we will start with is the HHO generator. The first thing that I noticed when I was looking at this patent is the generator. Most of the generators that you see that Stanley has are tubular arrays. This one right here actually is not. It's a plate array. One thing that he pointed out in his later patents is the plate arrays produce like only one times. He has 3 different scales. He's like the plate array, some other thing, and then a tubular array. And basically the tubular array produces 3.5 times the amount of gas. The plate array produces 1 times the amount. So, this was not the most efficient type of a cell, but we're going to go through it anyway because this is one of the first things he did, and I think there is some important information in there that we can learn from. Okay, as I said, this is a cell. It works like a traditional plate array cell. His cells do not have neutral plates in them, though. There's only 2 plates, a positive and a negative, and the reason for that is his plates are not actual plates for electrolysis. They are capacitors. That's the whole purpose of his plates, is to act as a capacitor. And as you know, how a capacitor works is you put an electrical current into it, and it basically charges up, and then it'll discharge. It's the same exact thing that goes on here. Is he has the power connected to it, and the capacitor, he calls it a water capacitor, basically charges up, and as the charge increases, the pull of the electrons and stuff between the hydrogen and oxygen and all that, it basically pulls them apart, and that's how the water molecules split, is because the magnetic pull between the hydrogen and oxygen atoms becomes weaker than the pull that becomes present when you have high electrical current between the positive and negative plate. Hydrogen is attracted to the negative plate, and oxygen is attracted to the positive plate. Okay, so we have the plates, and then they're submersed in water. They have the current going to them, a positive and a negative current. Then what he has right here, if I can get a better view of it and it can be in focus, is there's a divider plate right here. And in the middle of the divider plate, just picture this 3D as if it was in like a tube, okay? In the middle of the divider plate, he had a hole drilled through it, and he put a nipple in there. Attached to that nipple is a one-way check valve. What that did is, as the gas was produced, it allowed the gases to pass up through the check valve and go into this holding chamber. This chamber was under pressure. It had to be like that for a reason. The reason he had to do that is so that he could start his car up, and then also during times of acceleration and stuff like that, he had to have that extra gas in there for the car to be able to function as it should during acceleration and during high speeds. Because he had a pressurized tank, he did have safety precautions. The first one right here is basically a safety valve. What would happen is if there was an explosion or something like that that would occur, which it should completely be impossible in his system. If the pressure somehow reached too high, if the other safety functions failed or something, he had the safety valve that would blow. Basically what he had is a rupture disc in there. When the pressure would get too high, if there was a sudden increase, bam, that disc would basically break, okay, and release the gases. So it wasn't dangerous and didn't blow up the whole system. What he also had attached to this is a solenoid, basically to control the power that goes to the cell. And he had the solenoid connected to the safety valve, and it was also in turn connected to a vacuum control valve, or switch is what it is, a vacuum control switch. Okay, a couple of things. One, connected to this solenoid is a pressure switch. What this the gas pressure switch does is once the pressure in the tanks reaches a certain PSI, it would shut power off to the cell so that it no longer produces gas. Okay, this is a safety reason. You only need a certain amount of PSI to be able to run a car during times of high speed, acceleration, to start up, all that kind of stuff. So he had that connected to a solenoid, which is basically a solenoid is a shut off. Okay, it's like a switch. It's like a light switch. You can turn the power on and off. And then he also had a vacuum control switch. The vacuum control switch also acted as a shut-off for when the car was at lower RPMs, such as during idle. Basically, you'll have an increase of vacuum in your engine when you're at idle, and so it would be able to measure that, and it would flow current into the cell according to the amount of vacuum that was in the line, so that it would decrease the amount of gases being produced. Okay, now that we understand that, we have our cell here. There's a tube, and these little squares are basically valves, shut-off valves. And so you have the tube, and then the tube right over here goes up to this right here. This is the electrical shut-off control. So that's actually tied into the ignition switch in the car. That way when you turn the car on, the system's active, okay? And when you turn it off, it completely shuts everything down. From there, the gas will pass through a tube and go into this pin liner fuel flow control. Basically, this right here is a fuel flow control for the hydrogen gases. And I will go into that in more detail in just a minute. Okay, and then as the gas passes through this pin liner fuel flow control, goes through a tube. There's another optional shut-off valve right here if you choose to put it in there. And then it goes up here into the mixing chamber. This mixing chamber is very important, okay? This is where all of the gases are mixed. The hydrogen and oxygen gases, the non-combustible gases, sorry, and then the air, okay? Yes, it does. It sucks in air from the outside. Basically, okay, so that's this side of the mixing chamber. You got your hydrogen going in, and then you also have your air from the outside being sucked in. Next, on this side over here is where you have the non-combustible gases going in. Okay, I'll start from the bottom. Basically, what he has is down here, it's a closed loop system. He has this tube connected to the exhaust port on the car. And what happens is after combustion, because of the water holds gases and other particles like that inside of it. It's not just hydrogen and oxygen, and the other gases that water hold are actually non-combustible gases. So what comes out in the exhaust is some water vapor and then also some non-combustible gases. He takes that non-combustible gas he runs it through this tube. It goes and it's connected to a pump which is connected to the pulley of the car, okay? And it continues through this tube. There's a valve right here, an adjustment control valve that it goes through, basically to control the amount that passes into the mixing chamber, the amount of non-combustible gases. And then that comes over here through the top and then is basically sucked down over here into the mixing chamber with the hydrogen, oxygen, and the air from the outside. Non-combustible gas is very important. What this does is it reduces the burn rate of the hydrogen gas and reduces it down to a burn rate of a fossil fuel. So instead of burning at the high rate that it does, like 3.5 times faster than gasoline or whatever it is. I think it's actually more than that. Gasoline burns at like 45 or something like that, and then hydrogen burns at 300 and something feet per second. I believe something like that. Anyway, hydrogen burns a lot faster than gasoline. That's the point. Okay, everything comes over here and is combined into this air mixture chamber. An important thing to note is in this air mixture chamber, I'm going to go to another page that's a better example. What Stan says is in this air mixture chamber, the hydrogen comes into it. He has the hydrogen pass into this air mixture chamber at the top for a reason, because hydrogen rises like a whole lot faster than any other gases. So if he was to try to inject the gas down here at the bottom, it would actually float up to the top and basically would prevent it from mixing with all the other gases. So what he had to do is he has to inject the hydrogen in here at the top so that it can mix with all of the other gases together to basically produce one homogeneous gas or whatever. So that's important to know. This right here is an oil port. Basically, if you have a 2-cylinder engine instead of a 4-cylinder engine like nowadays, that is an option to inject oil down into your system so that it keeps it lubricated. That's not necessary for a 4-cylinder engine. You can take that off and completely ignore it. Okay, so I'll explain this a little bit better. The gas mixture chamber. You'll have your hydrogen here on the left side and your oxygen here on the right side. It might be reversed in the video when I do it, but the hydrogen comes and passes through here. This is the valve that was shown as a square in the other picture. Basically, this will control the amount of hydrogen that comes through. So there's multiple controls for that. And then the hydrogen passes through this quenching disc. If any of you have watched Russ's videos, RwGresearch, I forget his number, it's RWG like 42 something or other, but anyway, he actually has a quenching disc that he tested. Basically what it is it's a micron disc, a stainless steel micron disc, I believe, and it has teeny little holes through it, like all the way through it, all over it, and it allows the gas to pass through, but if you light it, it will not allow an explosion to blow past it. So that's basically the same type of a thing that Stanley Meyers had designed. I think Stan's was like a ceramic disc though, micron disc, which works wonderful. You don't need all these backflash preventers or anything like that with the quenching disc that Stan had designed. Okay, you can run high amounts of hydrogen gas and oxygen gas through a quenching disc that Stanley Meyers had designed, and you're not going to get a backflash that goes up into your system and blows it up. That's all there is to it. Okay, right here we have the external air port. So the external air is sucked in through obviously the vacuum of the car and all that, and is mixed in with the hydrogen gas, and then on this side again, like before, is the non-combustible gases. And it all mixed down in there, and then it's sucked down into your engine and distributed through the cylinders. So that's that setup. A couple more things to go to, a couple more pictures I want to go through. this right here is the fine, or the pin liner fuel flow control. That's what controls the amount of hydrogen that goes into the mixture. Obviously, the more that you step on the throttle, the more hydrogen you'll need. The less that you do, the less hydrogen you'll need. So that's how he controls it, is through this. And it's a super simple concept. Basically, what happens is you have this lever right here, which is connected to the throttle. When you push on the gas, it'll twist basically, or pull out on this little pin, which in turn pulls this pin back. The pin is tapered like this. So the closer the base right here is to this gap space right here, the less gas that's going to pass through. The further away it is, the more gas will be able to pass through. Okay, so it's that simple. That's all there is to it. The hydrogen gas connects up here, goes down through, is allowed to pass through this gap space right here in the amount necessary for the acceleration and all that. And then it's passed up through the outlet port. So you have your hydrogen inlet port and your hydrogen outlet port. This right here is basically showing another example of the carburetor. Basically, he has a backflash preventer type of a thing. He already has it. His system's not going to backflash. Why he even put it in there? It's just for safety precautions, I think. So when he was doing all of his stuff, it was legal, so that there was no question whatsoever that any accident could happen with his design. So basically, what this will do is, if there is any kind of a backflash or something, it would just blast out the top here. This is the hood of the car right here. There's a tube that comes out and just basically will eject any explosion. So okay, what we have right here, this is a top view of the carburetor. It basically is designed as you would see a regular carburetor. Of course, it has its own design, but gives you a good idea. This right here is basically the butterfly valve. I don't know if his was a butterfly valve or if it actually moved back and forth. I think it moved back and forth like this, like instead of twisting like a butterfly valve does on a carburetor. But I would imagine either way would work. It might twist back and forth like a butterfly valve. I don't know, but it's possible. And these lines right here that you see is an air filter. I'll show you a better description. This is a really good illustration of what it is. Basically, this is a carburetor, okay? This is like the top part that holds the air filter. These right here, this is the air filter, okay? It's basically cutting it in half. That's what it'll look like cut in half. So, right here, okay, you can see that external air from the outside is sucked in right here through this little gap. It's passed through this filter, so you don't get any dirt and crap like that in there. And then, it is sucked right here into the external air intake, okay? That's how that works. Sucks in air from all the way around it, just like it would in a normal carbureted car through a normal air intake system. So, and then everything's mixed in like I showed you. Pretty neat. This is a better example of his butterfly. It does look like it's a butterfly valve just because of how he has everything attached. Oh, attached right here. So it looks like this would be connected to the throttle and let the amount of air in that would need to be let in. So this right here is a scale basically showing the burn rates of gas, of the fuels and stuff like that. So looks like hydrogen is at a burn rate of 325. I think it's feet per second, I don't know. Burn rate in MPT air CMS, centimeters a second, maybe. Something like that. Anyway, 325 feet, or 325 is the burn rate right here for the hydrogen gas. And as you see, bam, you come over here, you have hydrogen, methane, alcohol, gasoline. And gasoline is only at a burn rate of 43. You have natural gas, which is a burn rate of 42, propane, which is 41, and diesel, which is 40. So as you can see, the burn rate of hydrogen is a whole lot faster, better than any other gas. So, a couple more things I wanted to point out is a few things that Stan had written here. I think this is important to address. This is basically the part of the patent where he goes through and describes everything. I kind of gave you a simplified version of it. So what he says here, you probably can't see it, and I'm sorry, is in the gas transformation process, ambient air is passed through an open flame gas burner system to eliminate gases and other present substance. Thereafter, the non-combustible gas mixture is cooled, filtered for impurity removal, and mechanically mixed with a predetermined amount of hydrogen gas. So what he's saying is that the ambient air, I think it was, let's see, in the transfer, ambient air is passed through an open flame. Basically, this gets rid of the impurities and stuff like that, and then he cools it down, so runs it through a filter, and that kind of purifies the air coming in. Ambient air is basically air from the outside, so it's kind of a purification process. He also has a later design where he actually ionizes the ambient air that comes in from the outside. He ionizes that gas, and that helps the burn rate of the hydrogen. It actually increases it, which basically, if you think about it, the better the burn rate of hydrogen and the higher the atomic energy that's released when it's burned, the less of it that you would need. That's the key to Stan's stuff, is you don't have to have massive amounts of hydrogen produced because of how he did it. He ran it through the laser arrays and stuff like that, so that the gas would be more powerful. It would have a greater atomic energy release when it's combusted. That in turn made it so that there would be less gas required. That with the mixing of the non-combustible gases. Another thing I wanted to point out right here, and I am so sorry that this camera just sucks so bad. He put, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. Okay, guys. If I go cross-eyed, it's because I'm blind. Alright, I was born that way. Gonna be like that forever. I've had surgery to try to fix it. Didn't really work. Well, sort of did. Straightened one eye, not the other. So if I ever look funny, that's why. Okay, doesn't take anything away from my intelligence. So, you'll see that I read really, really close because I'm blind. It is accordingly a principal object of the present invention to provide a combustion system of gases combined from a source of hydrogen and non-combustible gases. Another object of the invention is to provide such a combustion system that intermixes the hydrogen and non-combustible gases in a controlled manner and thereby control the combustion temperature. A further object of the invention is to provide such a combustion system that controls the fuel flow to the combustion chamber in a system and apparatus particularly adapted to hydrogen gas. So, what that's saying, the system that he created, this carburetor, is adapted for hydrogen gas because it needs to be. So, that's kind of some important things that I thought I would share with you guys. It's kind of a brief overview of his patent. Sorry if you have like the trash can in the background and stuff. This is the only room that I could find, that's quiet, that's semi-decently lit. So that is an overview, and I hope that it helps some of you, of Stan's patent titled Hydrogen Gas Injector System for the Internal Combustion Engine, patent number 4389981, January 28th, 1983, an early patent. Show you one more view of that. Bam, there it is. Okay, it's carbureted design, not injected design. Hope y'all like it. Give me your input. Tell me what you think. Give me some advice. You know, give me your ideas, all that kind of jazz, because can't do it alone. We all got to work together. And you can also visit rwgresearch.com for all the patents and stuff like that, and also Russ's videos. He has a lot of really good YouTube videos, and he's done a lot of good work, and I appreciate that from him. So the more we're all involved, the better. So alright guys, peace out and have a good one.